Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Talk of the Town by The Block, where we sit with interesting people to talk about interesting things. I'm Nikki, your host, and today we have with us Mr. Travis Wright. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, thank you. Hopefully this will be interesting. I have a feeling it might be.
I have a very strong feeling it's going to be as well. So, first of all, how are you doing with the rain?
Rain does not bother me. I'm originally from the Midwest United States where we get some of the craziest storms ever. So
Yeah.
as long as it's not a storm of drones, I'm okay. Storm of rain, no problem.
No problem.
I would recommend, though, we get more drains around here, better drainage. I don't know.
Yep. They're working on it for
It's
sure.
good. It's good.
So just before we get started, for a quick icebreaker, we're going to do this or that. So I'm going to ask you very quick questions, and you can just tell me your answer, okay?
Okay. Here we go.
So Web3 or Web4?
I think we're in the Web4 now.
AI agents or human teams?
Wow. Well, I've been building a lot of AI agents right now. I think that we're going to start seeing more agent resources instead of human resources as we move forward.
Okay. Crypto or RWAs?
Well, they're both the same. But real world assets, when we're talking about $900 trillion worth of worldwide assets, soon to be a quadrillion, and those will all be tokenized eventually, it's just the evolution of crypto.
Being early or being right?
Being early or being right? Well, I have the unique distinction of often being early and right. So can you be both? I don't know.
I hope
And
so.
I am Travis Wright, so that makes me right most of the time.
Yep. Marketing or technology?
My favorite technology?
Marketing or technology?
Marketing or technology? Well, I think that I've been in both for a long time, including I was one of the top marketing technologists in Silicon Valley for a long time and spoke on that topic for a long time. I think that with technology, you can do marketing a whole lot better. I think that it's really empowering. We're seeing new things that we've never seen before with both.
Right. Decentralization or regulation?
I think decentralization is great. That's the thing that got me to really appreciate cryptocurrency and Bitcoin really early on. I think that the regulation is good. However, too much regulation, then you start getting some of these big banking manipulation, as we've always seen with the gold and silver market. So I think that there's benefits to both. I do think we need to have the regulation, but not too much that it squashes the decentralization, because oftentimes centralized powers want that regulation so they can then wrap their mitts around what's decentralized.
Yeah. Building fast or building perfect?
I think there's no such thing as building perfect. I think you should build and then you iterate on top of that, because you're going to make mistakes. I think some people have that perfection paralysis where they think, oh my, this has to be perfect, it has to be perfect, it's not perfect. There's no perfect, right? I think school, especially in America, it kind of drills that into you where it's like, oh, it's not correct, it's not correct. I'm like, but it's a collaborative, building, creative process, and trying to be perfect eliminates some of the creative magic that can happen.
Absolutely. And finally, LinkedIn or X?
I got on LinkedIn in 2006
Wow.
or 2005, and I've been on Twitter X since 2007. I love both of them. I think that you guys can connect with me on either place. I'm TW, TEEDUBYA, and I'm on both places, and I like both of them equally. If you'd have said like Reddit or whatever, I'd have been like, meh. But I genuinely like both of them. For crypto, I think, X is a little more important. But LinkedIn, man, I don't know what's up with that algorithm over there, man. I don't know what's up with that. Hey, fix your algorithm, LinkedIn.
Okay. Now I know this is going to be interesting. So let's get into it. Maybe we start with a quick intro to yourself, how you ended up in this crazy industry and what you're up to now.
Okay. So, I've been writing about this right now. I put together one of my recent posts. Actually, I published it today on LinkedIn, talking about how I've historically sort of seen things early and then before they really even had a name. And it's like, if you think about, even Web 0, before there was the first web, when you started seeing some of these technologies out there like early Nintendo and the arcade games and Atari. And my first technology was Pong. My mom bought the Pong game, and it was like a little dot and you had these little two bars, and you had to you're kind of playing tennis. my mom got that in in the 70s, right? I remember seeing that going, wow, technology is going to be important in our life. And that was before the TVs had a remote. I was the remote. Travis, can you change the channel 9? Oh, right. And so, but seeing that and then seeing my first computer when I was in 5th grade and playing with an Apple IIe, you just knew, like playing, Oregon Trail and Lemonade Stand. I was like, this is going to be important. Not yet. It's not great yet. Like my junior year in high school, we were in my computer class and they were teaching us BASIC, right? The basic language, which is 10, you say 10, Travis, wrote 20, print, run, whatever, the whole thing. And it just basically just says that one thing over and over and over, and it doesn't stop. It was just like, this is not cool yet, right? And so the evolution of it to the very first time that I got on internet with a high, speed internet was at the University of Kansas in the computer lab. And I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it. We are here. This is amazing. And realistically, I stayed up for 36 hours and stayed there and just learned how to build a website. I was like, I know I need to learn how to build a website. So the very first time that I was online, I learned HTML and built my first website. Wow. Aside from, going and get Mountain Dews from the vending machine and going to the bathroom from too many Mountain Dews, how does this work? And so since then, I've seen things happen and I could predict they were happening. Like I was doing SEO, search engine optimization, before Google was around. Like, how can I make my website rank on Lycos and Excite and Alta Vista, these early search engines? And then paid search came around on Overture. There was a platform before Google, and you could literally spend pennies or less than a penny to get clicks to your website. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah. So really early in paid search, really early in social media. I did my first social media marketing campaign on Friendster back in like 2002 or something, 2003. And I actually built with a business partner of mine at the time, we built a project called Method Laboratories, which was for artists, filmmakers, designers, and we built 5 different technologies on this thing. We're talking 1999 to 2004. We were building these things out. 5 of the things that we built turned out to be multi-billion-dollar industries for other companies. Like we built WordPress before WordPress was around. We built a solution to give people free web space, and that was 50 megabytes of free space. That was before Dropbox, right? Before the cloud. We had something called iRadio Lab where independent musicians could send us their MP3s. We would stream them out through a Winamp tool, and that was before iTunes. That was before iPod, right? So there's been times and time again where we've been early. Same thing, we built everybody had a profile, like social media. We were doing that before social media. And then we also had a solution where we could print custom t-shirts for your business and for your brand or your music band, right? So we had 5 different businesses, and it was just really early, and I was in Kansas City. There wasn't venture capital. So that was sort of Web 1. And then I went to a conference in San Francisco back in April of 2007. It was the Web 2 Expo. They had just named Web 2. And now with social media was so big and how that whole thing took off. And so really Web 1 was you could read it. It was like the internet was a library. You could read it. It was information. Yep. Web 2, you could read it, but now they added the write element. So you can now write to the web, and it created that social layer, which we could all, communicate with. I think potentially that layer, the social layer has done some damage to society in general, and it triggered our dopamine in wrong ways, but I think the general idea was smart. Web 3 was now you could read it, you could write it, but now you can own it. Yep. You can own your data. NFTs, digital assets, real world assets, right? RWA, you can now own them. And I think we're in Web 4 now because now you can build, and the web is building itself. These autonomous agents are building through its own intelligence. It's unbelievable what's happening. So, between Web 0 to now, I think, and I've kind of staked a claim to it, I said that we're in Web 4 now because the internet is building itself now, Nikki, and that's crazy.
That is crazy. What do you mean by it's building itself?
Right. Well, with these autonomous AI agents and how you can utilize tools like OpenClaw or, Anthropic's Claude. if you are in the world right now and you're working and you're building stuff and you're not using Claude, you are severely limiting your capabilities. Claude is one of the most amazing things that I personally have ever seen. And once you understand skills and you understand the co-work capability, you can unleash it on your computer to do stuff for you. It has the Claude code. And then you start diving in and going, wow, I can do this on Claude Code on my terminal. I can install it. I can connect it to folders. I've built almost 20 apps now separately. I built games now that's launching on the App Store, like a mobile game called Baseball Sudoku. I got a soccer, football Sudoku coming out.
Yeah.
I built these out. We're building amazing tools at the company I work with, Multibank Group, MBIO, building just great tools. And what's really fun, Nikki, is seeing everybody else, like we're helping unleash them, teaching them how to use these AI tools, and then watching what they're building. And so it's really awesome to see like what my boy Alfredo was building with community stuff. We got Nihal building some really cool tools. Marvin built this amazing content creation platform that helps organize the whole calendar. It's unbelievable. You got other people in different divisions doing stuff and building cool things. And so now I really think that it is that mix between, Web4 is where agents are doing what they do, and how are they going to transact? It's not through paper money. It's going to be through digital currencies. It's going to be through stable coins and crypto. Yeah. And real world assets is just a whole nother area that's so exciting. So this is one of the coolest times, I think, when it comes to technology, but it's also one of the wildest times because of technology. And there's a lot of people who maybe haven't figured these things out yet. Yeah. How are you going to augment AI to help you become more effective? A lot of people haven't figured that out yet. And I think that's really where society needs to say, hey, AI is here. You can't put the lid back on Pandora's box. A lot of people are freaking out about it. Like, oh my God, it's gonna do damage to us all. Well, it's gonna eliminate a lot of jobs. It's gonna give us all back a lot of free time. But then when you talk about the geopolitical stuff, that's a whole other area of that, because we're in a world now where technology can do things that was never possible before, and the intelligence behind it all. You just have to find ways to augment you to level you up. Right? And I think that's where we are. If you're not doing that, you're going to be falling way behind.
But do you think it's making people lazy? Like, what happens if we wake up one day and the servers are out? Mm-hmm. Do you think it's going to...
Well, I think I do think that, if you aren't just normally a reader or doing things to sort of grow your frontal cortex, right, and keep that sharp, I think that, people can be lazy. A lot of people are using AI like it's a Google, and it's not. That's not how you should be using it. You should really be using AI as a force multiplier, right? And so I think, for me personally, I don't know that I've ever been busier than I am right now. And so it's like I'm doing all these things for Multibank and MBIO, and then I'm going home and I'm going, wait, I could do this. Let me do this. Oh, wow. Let me see if I could do this. And so one of my favorite things that I've done, just to kind of synthesize all this data has never been available to us before, right? And I would say I'm not super technical. I don't know how to go out and build these high-end leveled websites and whatnot. I've never done that. Mm-hmm. I know some of the basic stuff, and I've leveled myself up enough. Really, once WordPress came out, then I was like, okay, I don't have to build websites anymore. I just need to leverage the themes on WordPress, right? But now you can build stuff. We are in the era of the builder. Like I think Sam Altman said it, that there will be a time where a one-person company will use AI and become $1 billion business. Yep. And I said, I don't need to be $1 billion business, but I'd like, a few, tens of millions would be good, right? And I think that it's quite possible, because you start building things that people need. But what I'm doing is I'm building it. Is it fun or interesting to me? Is it something that I would want or that I would need? And if so, other people probably would need it too, right? Yeah. So that's kind of really where we are. And it's like, I think that you should find ways to augment it. Is it making you lazy? It's making some people lazy. Mm-hmm. But some people, people said that exact same thing. Oh, isn't Google going to make you dumb and lazy? Well, like if you have that inherent curiosity, like how do things work, and I do think that maybe my generation has that a little more so in some ways, critical thinking, because we were playing games back in the day where we didn't have YouTube and we didn't have these things. Like, people are like, oh, I don't know how to do it. And immediately they go and find the answer. And then I remember back in the day, we were playing some of these games. We're like, well, what are we supposed to do next? And we'd have friends around and we'd be all hanging out like, well, try this. Or what about this?
Yeah.
Nope, that didn't work. Well, let me try this. Hey, we did it. Right. And so it was like that critical thinking and curiosity I think are skills that are taught and underutilized.
Yeah.
And I think it's important in this era that we go, or you're going to just get lazy and be smooth brained. And we don't want to be smooth brained.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, like I always think about if it's making people lazy, because I look at myself, right? Like I'm just going to use myself as an example. I don't know that I can write an email without my ChatGPT. Like at this point, it's like it's doing everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you said, it's also making me more productive because I have time for more important things to explore and research and kind of broaden my skill sets. So that's, yeah.
The only time I actually use ChatGPT or whatever to write an email for me is if I'm mad at something, and then I'll be like, if this and this and that, blah blah blah, and I'm like, could you please sculpt this in a emotionally intelligent, mature response to this way?
You know what's funny is I was telling my colleague the other day, is like when I started working, like I started my career. I was using chat to write all my emails, and it would tell me, like, maybe you need to be a little bit more firm. And now it's telling me, maybe you need to, like, tone it down, like, calm down. I'm like, okay.
Nice. That's one thing I love about Claude is that it has a feature in there where you can sculpt the style. And so my first book I wrote was called Digital Sense, and I really liked the first chapter because it kind of told the story the way that I like, and it kind of, this is how I talk. And so I took that chapter in, and I was like, you can upload a piece of content that you wrote that you're quite proud of, and then it will say, oh, well, you are a insightful storyteller.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, great. And it's like, so whenever I want to create certain things where I'm using tools to augment it, then I will say, hey, turn on the insightful storyteller's style, which is based on how I speak. And so that style, so you can go into your Claude settings and set up your style, which I think will help you create very well. Also, I would recommend adding a skill called Humanizer. Humanizer is a great skill. You can add skills on Claude. The Humanizer skill basically eliminates all of the AI text slop and all these words that it says and the M dashes and all the other garbage that makes it look like it's garbage. So adding that skill, and you can easily add skills to your thing, I would recommend doing that.
That's very interesting. I'm having trouble. I know I need to migrate to Claude, but it's so difficult when you get used to using something and now you like it's like something completely different.
For sure. I'll say there's a solution to that. What you can do is go into your ChatGPT settings and click on where your name is, go into settings. There's a data a setting, and you click on that, and then you can export all of your data. It'll put it in a nice format, and then you can then upload that into Claude, and you'll be able to keep most of your conversations. I think it'll organize it for you.
Oh, wow. And it will just pick up where you left off.
It will. You'll probably need to create some of them new, but it will have the existing data that you've already done. So there is probably a time where you need to have both of them. What I like to do, and I think is so very helpful, is to go in, talk to your existing chats or your threads that you had, and say, create a markdown document, a .md file of all the important stuff from this conversation, and then it will create an optimal markdown document. And these AIs are using these .md files, and then just upload that into your project or your chat on the other one, because that way you can be more granular, and you can go in and extract that data the way you want it.
Wow, that's a very good tip. Thank you. So when we were doing our research on you, I read on your Instagram bio, it says smartass futurist. What is a futurist?
Well, I think that it's I tend to always be looking forward, right? But I realize that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, so I try to be in the now as much as possible. But I always look through the lens of, where are we going with this? Where is this headed? How can I utilize this? And how can I, find the business use cases on that? And so that's what I've done, I think, 8 or 9 times in my career now, where I've seen something and I go, oh, this is interesting. Then I dive in. I spend a whole lot of time understanding it and then teaching people about it and then finding the business use cases for it. And then while I'm in that business use case exploration, I'll go, wait a second, look at this. And so when I was a marketing technologist in Silicon Valley, I was the global digital strategist for Symantec for the Norton antivirus brand. Then after that, I had my own agency, and I was doing marketing for 3 marketing technology companies simultaneously in Silicon Valley. And then I was writing my book, Digital Sense, with Wiley. And while I was writing that book, I really dove deeper into blockchain and understanding crypto. Now, back in 2010, I had mined Bitcoin. I saw it. I saw an article on Slashdot, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And so I put it on my laptop. I ran it. It ran for a while. It really made my computer hot. My fan ended up going out, but I mined a block of Bitcoin. But then because the fan went out, my motherboard ended up melting. And I had never backed up those 55 Bitcoin that I had.
Wow.
Because I had mined a block of Bitcoin, and then I went to a faucet. You could go to a faucet. It was called a Bitcoin faucet. Gavin Andreessen created it. And you could click every 24 hours, you could get a free 5 Bitcoin sent to your wallet. So here's my wallet, but I never backed up my private keys on my wallet because I'm a freaking idiot. If I could go back to 2010 Travis, I would be like, hey, back up your keys, bro. This is going to be worth a few $1 million someday.
Wow.
And keep going to that website that you only went to once.
So you mined Bitcoin in 2010.
Yeah.
And then how did you continue? Did you stay on that crypto journey?
No. I talked to every smart person that I knew, and not one of them, screw all you guys. Not one of them was like, oh, this could be important. Wow, this looks amazing. Like literally some of the smartest, some of the biggest conspiratorial thinkers that I knew, some of the best engineers that I was working with, I asked them all, and not one of them even gave a glimmer of like, it just looks like a Ponzi thing. I wouldn't do anything with it. And I was like, man, I think I talked, 8 to 10 people. I asked them, like, what do you think of this? Not one, and every one of them, well, not everyone, but most of them got back to me and said, man, why didn't I listen to you?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, why did I listen to you?
Yeah.
So I didn't get back into crypto really until like 2015.
Okay.
And I bought some around $400. I bought 10 of them at $400, and then I bought some more, and then started doing a podcast with Joel Comm back in 2017 that we're still doing. It is the Bad Crypto Podcast. We're in our 9th season of doing it.
Yeah.
So from working at Silicon Valley and have my agency and understanding blockchain, going, look, I saw this early. I'm like, this is the 3rd generation of the web. We get to own these digital assets. Crypto is owning digital assets. And so we were claiming it really early. Matter of fact, in 2017, we were one of the first ones. I think we were the first podcast to ever even mention NFTs.
Yeah.
Like we saw Crypto Kitties and Crypto Punks and some of those things, and we're like, look at these. We were making such a hilarious joke about Crypto Kitties because we were like, I remember being in there going, so wait, we have these little digital cartoon cats, and then this cat has sex with this cat, and they make their own little baby cat. Oh, wait a second. That is ingenious. Are you telling me that this asset here can have features of this asset and this asset? I was like, wow, this is amazing. So NFTs were really cool, and we minted about 1.5 million NFTs on the Wax blockchain. We had a whole series called Blockchain Heroes that we launched, and we launched 3 series before Bored Apes was even launched.
Wow.
So we were really early with that. We launched our series in 2020. We had a pack series, really cool. So the way that was set up is you would have a pack, and you would get 5 assets or 25 assets, and you'd open up the pack, and the pack would have 5 different cards in it, let's say, and there would be common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, mythic, or a secret one of one in the pack. And so using math, we had them all like, you're going to get maybe a couple uncommon, a common or 2, and maybe you get an epic, or you open one up like, ooh, maybe you get a legendary.
Yeah.
And so each one was more and more rare. And so we had a really cool time, had fun time doing that. We launched Kickstarter. It was an NFT Kickstarter before anybody was doing anything with that. We had an NFT subscription tool that we used and we built that basically we had a yearly thing where we partnered with other people and drop NFTs. And so we were exploring that really before they had utilities. We were helping come up with a lot of those. We were on the Wax Advisory Council with some people from Google and Animoca and a bunch of other awesome people. I think was Apple? Apple wasn't in it. Oh, Atari was on it. And so it was really cool to be with a lot of these people, although we didn't ever really meet much with this group. We were on this great advisory council that they didn't really chat with them enough, and they should have because there was a lot of brilliant people in there. But the Wax community was awesome. That whole space was awesome, and it really sort of solidified where we are with Web3.
Yeah. So just on the topic of NFTs, they were really big at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and then they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always curious about why that happened, because at that time I was personally not involved in this space at all. I had no idea what anything meant. And then once I did get involved and I was like looking at the different type of tokens, and then I was like looking into NFTs and what they are, I'm like, the technology is actually really cool. You can do a lot with that.
Yeah.
But then not a lot of people are like, I get involved in a lot of projects and they're like, let's steer clear of the word NFT because there's a bad connotation.
It's kind of a toxic word, right? And I think why did that happen? Well, for one, the gas fees on Ethereum were stupid. And that's one reason I never bought any Bored Apes. Like I didn't mint too many on Ethereum at all. Hindsight being 2020, I probably should have, but that's when we started not doing as many NFTs because I was like, look, we were looking at it as they were like fun, cool collectibles, right? And that's why each one of our cards had really cool animations, like and we hired all these different designers and stuff, and we worked with, we built some really, really cool cards. In fact, the last series that we launched, there was 40 different characters in the series, and each one of them had a 30-second little animated cinema story that cost us between $500 and $1,000 on each one of those to do. So we ended up spending more money on our last series than we earned because that was when the NFTs were starting to tank. It's like the end of the bull run and the bear market was coming in. NFTs just took a huge big brunt. Now, my thought was it's digital ownership. I always thought it should be digital asset ownership, DAO, but that's decentralized autonomous, organization. So that's a different acronym. But I think NFTs is weird, like non-fungible token. Like what the hell's that? But it's digital ownership, right? And that's why I think we're where we are with the RWAs and real world assets. I think these are essentially wrapped NFTs, but they represent real world assets now. So it's a totally different game. I think that, people were putting out slop after a while. They were just like, they were rug pulling and they were just dirty devs doing what dirty devs do. And I think that enough people were just like, screw this. And realistically, it's just a cartoon JPEG. Like I can just copy it. And why do I need to own it? And so I think that's what we understood. And we weren't charging ridiculous amounts for our NFTs. Our NFTs actually became more valuable over time to a point. And then it dropped back down. But we had it was a fun dopamine experience. You open up a pack, you don't know what you're going to get, you want to collect the whole set. And we had an amazing community. And I do think that as we've moved forward, though, it's just like, look, these digital assets, they're not going to go away. We all have a smartphone in our pocket, right? And why do I need a bank? And whenever we can do a lot of these things on our own. So I do think that, back to your earlier question about regulation, is it has hindered the space in some ways and it's legitimized it in others.
Yeah. So we touched on RWAs now, and I would love to dive a little bit deeper into that. So firstly, RWA is now such a hype word. You're hearing it everywhere. I'm like, everyone we talk to is like, tokenizing that, tokenizing this. Do you think there's a risk of RWA falling into the same trap as the word NFT?
I think that, my guess was probably back in 2018 or 2019, we were talking about how, we were going to see the rise of security tokens, right? So I was thinking I remember back in, let's say, 1997 or 98, I bought an Apple computer. How cool would it have been if it was, here's your Apple computer, but here's some Apple token. Thank you for being a part of it. Here's a loyalty sort of token. And then over time, all that money that went on the stock market, and then it literally went to however high it did. Then it did a 7x split. So for every one share, now you had 7 of them, and it's gone up and down. So it's like it turned from a couple $100 million or whatever it was, or I don't remember what the market cap was in 2017. But then it got up to $2-3 trillion, just insane. I want to see companies tokenizing it in a way that it's a reward thing. It's thank you. It's almost how Kickstarter should be. Yeah. Hey, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for buying the product. But basically, you just buy the product early. You don't actually get any ownership in the company. So what do I think it's going to happen? I think that security tokens, which will still be real world assets. They're real world assets that are going to be tokenized. Whatever we decide we want to call them is going to be whatever we call them. But I think by the year 2030, there's going to be a $250 billion worth of assets of value that are going to start being locked up as tokens. And what I like to say is, like Klaus Schwab with the World Economic Forum, he says, by 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy. I think that's bogus. I think that happiness is when you own a bit of everything.
Yes.
And so I think that that's, they got us in the situation where you don't own your music. You rent it from Spotify. You don't own your videos. You watch them on Netflix, right? So in a lot of ways, we've gotten away from ownership, but I think that ownership really is a path to freedom in some ways. And so I think that I like the idea of owning a piece of everything. And that's one of the reasons, frankly, Nikki, that I'm here in Dubai.
Yeah.
Because, Zach, the CEO of multibank.io, and his father, Nasser Taher of Multibank Group. Multibank Group has been around since 2005,
Yep.
right? They do like $35 billion a day in volume.
I actually did my first trade on multibank.
Really?
Yeah.
Very nice. And so from being in Kansas City, I was doing these big spaces on X, and met Zach, and then met Courtney, who's the head of compliance, and then met Alex, who's the head of Mavericks blockchain. I'm like, these guys are really cool, and they're building something really awesome. And so I chatted with Zach, and I said, hey, if you ever need a guy to come over and help lead innovation, I'd love to be a part of it. He goes, I happen to know a guy who knows a guy. So he's the CEO of MBIO, and he's the son of the founder. And so I had a call with them, and they were like, how soon can you be on a plane? And I was like, when you think about it, to me, it's traditional finance meets, Forex meets DeFi meets RWA. And we're talking about a company that does $400+ million in profit a year. And here we are. I was like, wow. And they have a token that's like under $60 million. And they're doing all of this. Like, this could be amazing. And so that's what got me to move. And I said, all right, I will uproot my life and come to Dubai. And I've been here now since November. And it's strictly, I lead marketing for MBIO, and I lead innovation for the Multibank Group. And now technically the world's first chief Web4 officer, apparently, which is good. And been thinking about how this all ties in. And so that sort of led me to where we are with, I don't like the term Web4, but I like the term we're in the fourth web, the fourth version of the web. And so I set up a website, fourthweb.ai. I built a really interesting platform called wire.fourthweb.ai that actually goes out and tracks all the news about RWA and crypto, AI agents, and how it impacts humans. It literally goes out, grabs all that from like 100+ sources and newsletters and whatnot. Then it finds all the articles that are similar. It will cluster them together, synthesize that data. Then it will say, here's the post for that. It will then, depending on which tag it is, if it's AI agent economy, if it is RWA or crypto, or if it's human imperative, it will then give it the tag. Then it will use the synthesis of the article to then generate an image description, use an API with Nana Banana on Gemini, create a cool image that fits into the motif of the thing, and then it will then publish the article.
All on its own.
All on its own. And then every 7 to 12 articles or so, it will then synthesize the most important ones, sorted by which ones have the highest wire vibe. And then it will create a script, and then it sends it to an API on 11 Labs, which then uses my voice. And then my voice reads the news of that script. And then it's like a 2 to 3 minute, audio presentation, about 4 times a day. It'll go through and read the most important pieces of news. And I'll use wire.fourthweb.ai to find the most interesting things that are popping off in AI and in real world assets in real time. And it's just doing it like every 30 minutes. It'll go and it'll say, any interesting articles that have over a certain vibe level? Nope, nothing published. And it'll go, oh, here's 2 over there. Okay, boom, publish both. So it normally is posting about 20 to 30 posts a day. And then they're also being sent out on X at the same time on the fourth web.
That's crazy. That's so cool.
It's really fun.
So just coming back to RWAs.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're seeing, or what at least I've observed, is that there's a lot of projects that are in the process of issuance. Mm-hmm. We ourselves are working with multiple projects that are looking to issue different assets, tokenizing different things, but we're not seeing a real secondary market. What are your thoughts? So
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You see a lot, you even see commercials on YouTube and whatnot for projects here in the UAE, and you go in and you look and you're like, wait a second, there's no secondary market liquidity.
Yeah.
Right? And that's wherein lies, I think, our opportunity with multi-bank and MBIO is because we have that liquidity, right? We have that side, we have this other side of the business that's fueling all of this. And I think that's really where, RWAs are the rubber's going to meet the road, so to speak, where you have all these cool things. You can come in and buy a piece of everything and you can own it and then you can hold it and you can hold them. You can invest regularly if you want, little as $50 a month. Just keep buying a little piece of this. And then if you want to sell them, well, there's the ability to sell them as well. So I think that's what we're building with MBIO. And we've got some amazing partnerships. Like we partnered with, Ritz-Carlton and MAG. We did a $3 billion deal on that. Partnered with the UFC fighter, Khabib Nurmagomedov. And we're going to be tokenizing his gems in a JV thing. And there's a partnership with some gold offerings from a big mine in Africa, and partnership with something there. Can't talk too much about that. But there's a whole lot of cool things that's happening, and it's like, wow, when people are able to understand what it is that we're building and what we're doing, they're going to go, wow. And that's what I saw, and I said, let me come to Dubai. Let me work with Zach. Let me work with Nasser. Let me work with Multibank, and let's build this. And that's what I told them. I said, look, I didn't come here for a job. I bought Bitcoin at $400. I came here to retire my bloodline. There's so much that can be done here in Dubai. There's so many amazing people, so many brilliant inventors and investors and business people here, right? And it's like, I'm a small town dude from Middle Missouri, USA, and here I am hanging out with all the Sheikh Habibis. This is fun. This is great. And there's just so much cool stuff happening here. It's like, Iran, U.S., Israel, get your stuff together. Come on, we got cool stuff to do.
We got to be moving on.
Yeah, come on. Let's be done with that. Come on.
So finally, I just have one question left.
Okay.
For all the young people watching that are very curious about these industries, AI, crypto, RWAs, what's one advice you would give them to help them accelerate their growth?
Well, I'll say what I did back in the day was I had spent about 150 to 200 hours playing a Legend of Zelda game, Ocarina of Time. So we're talking Nintendo 64 days. And I was like, how much time did I just spend on this freaking game? Oh my gosh. Wow. I could be learning to build websites. I could be learning to do anything. I could be better at graphic design. I could learn how to market things better. And so what I would suggest is to make sure that you have curiosity built into your schedule, right? Don't be afraid to side hustle things. Don't be afraid to test and explore and create. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I say this to my son, Jarek, he's 24, and I'm like, dude, you have this perfection paralysis. There is no such thing as perfection. It's not going to be perfect. Like school beats that in. Oh, it's not good enough. Like, it's okay. Make it crappy and make it better. And then keep learning, because those are your tests. That's, that is your playground, your sandbox. Explore. And I even in my age right now, here doing what I do, every week I'm spending probably at least 8 to 15 hours a week watching YouTube tutorials that other people are doing stuff with different AI tools, how this works, how that works, and then exploring and building stuff on my own, and then going, okay. And then now I'm at the point where, oh, that's an awesome GitHub repository. I would never touch a GitHub repository ever. And now I'm like, oh yeah, well, let me install that in my OpenClaw and make my own agent swarm more effective. And I'm like, oh, I just see this article. Hey, because my OpenClaw, you can talk to it on Telegram, right? So I got it set up. It's a little Mac Mini underneath my TV. I got installed, and I can play with different, AI models, and I built all these amazing things with that so far. And I just will say, hey, his name's Alistair. I'm like, hey, Alistair, what can I do with this? Read this GitHub repository. Yeah. Is this something that I can use to improve our models or improve our skills? It'll look at it, and I'll be like, well, be careful. Make sure that it's secure. Make sure that, we lock our security down, because there's nefarious people out there. But it's just a matter of being curious. It's a matter of exploring. I'll tell you this. now is the time. If you have an idea and you're an idea person, you've always wanted to create it, don't be afraid to try. You don't need a developer team anymore. Matter of fact, developers, we're going to see the only developers that are going to be left are the top tier ones that get paid. Everybody else is going to be a lower level developer that's being augmented with Claude and Cursor, which is a tool that you can use with Claude, or Google Gemini, or even ChatGPT 5.4 with the Codex tool. There's just start learning about these, because I'll tell you what, it's not Google. It's not, oh look, I can just utilize this and make my life better. But what I'll say is, I think that keep building, keep learning. And even if you don't know the answer, go to one of the other AIs and ask it. Like, they're multimodal. You can take a screenshot and say, I'm seeing this. What does this mean? Like, I use Perplexity all of the time. I use Perplexity and I use Claude. And if I don't know an answer what's happening on Claude, I'll take a screenshot. I'll go to Perplexity. I'll say, what's happening here? How do I need to fix it? What do I need to do next? And I'll say, go here, type this, paste this in, boom. Okay, that worked. Nice. So I even though I'm building it, I don't know all the answers. I'm not saying anybody knows all the answers. We are all pioneers in this AI game right now, and the pioneers get the arrows. And that's okay, because we're all building and we're all learning. And I would say, if you keep that curiosity, you will become relevant in the future, whereas those who are not, and they're more passive and they're more lazy, those are the people that's going to be part of this big divide that happens of the massive haves versus the massive have-nots. And you don't want to be on this side, so I would keep learning and keep growing and keep building, because now is the time.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. This has probably been one of the most interesting conversations I've ever had. So thank you for being here on such a rainy day, and we will definitely have you on another time.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. My pleasure.
Of course. Thanks, guys, for watching.